Hello and welcome to Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa. I am your host, Mikhail Tinubu. Welcome for the roller coaster that has been the transfer window. The fact is, this particular episode, we're going to delve a little bit into some of the happenings, the comings, the goings that have been taking place over the course of this particular summer window. Um, I think some teams have done better than others. Chelsea, to me, have been the most active club in the whole transfer window. Of course, the most of the business they've done have been outgoings, and they've still yet to get their number one transfer target this window. However, they are linked with so many other players. Manchester United. They've been in the window trying to complete a couple of deals. They have completed the deal for Mason Mount from Chelsea and Andre Onana from Inter Milan. However, their number one target during the lead up to the window was a number 9, and they have still yet to complete a signing for that. They've made a couple contract renewals, number one being Rashford. They've also just recently completed the sale of Anthony Elanga, and he has gone to Nottingham Forest. But is Manchester United still doing more of the same? I will delve into that with my guest, Gboyega. Gbebga, hello.
Hi, good evening. It's good to be here.
Gbebga, so much has happened during this window for some teams, and yet so much have stayed the same. West Ham United must be wary of the trying to buy a replacement for Declan Rice, knowing that other clubs know that they have a lot of money at their disposal to spend. Right now, the options they're being linked with, Fulham's Paulinho. Fulham are stating that they want £80 million for him. West Ham United cannot afford that, even though they've just taken in £105 million for Declan Rice. But it seems to me like now the window is all about clubs, selling clubs, recognizing that the club that is trying to buy from them has the money, and therefore they can afford to make huge demands on them, even if it's completely unreasonable. But we'll come back to that um, later in the show. I want to stick with Manchester United. Same old problems with transfers, do you think?
First of all, I think there's one lesson we are learning from this summer transfer window. It's suddenly looking like there is a scarcity for midfielders in the market. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like there are a lot of clubs out there that are losing their midfielders and they need replacement. Starting from the top, the reigning champions of the English Premier League, the reigning champions of the treble, Manchester City. They've lost Gundogan to Barcelona. They brought in Kovacic, but if you look at their transfers, only Kovacic is the incoming since the transfer window opened. They need to stack up their midfield. They've also lost Riyad Mahrez, one of their attacking midfielder, or you call him a winger. You go down to Arsenal. Arsenal are on the verge of looking Xhaka. If possible, they may also look Partey, right? They brought in Declan Rice. We're all happy about that. They brought in Jorginho last season from Chelsea. We are happy about that. But you look at that midfield, and you would say a Havertz, an Odegaard, a Saka, can they still stand the test of time in Europe? They also need midfielders. You go down to Brighton. Brighton just lost McAllister to Liverpool. They also lost, or they are about to lose Caicedo if all things work out to Chelsea or to whoever buys. That's both McAllister and Caicedo out of the team after they lost Trossard to Arsenal last season. Brighton also need midfielders. So you look at the transfer window, and all of a sudden, it looks like there is a scarcity of midfield players in positions. Look at Tottenham Hotspur. At the moment, Tottenham Hotspur have no number 10. They only have DMs and probably left midfielders. No number 10, no creativity, nothing. Who comes into Tottenham Hotspur? So generally, I feel this window is quite interesting. I really don't know what clubs will do in a couple of days to come, but it's left to be seen generally.
An absence of midfielders. Of course, we're talking in relation to elite clubs, the level of midfielders that they typically go for. Typically, historically, it's the lesser, lower teams that source out the very best gems from markets that no one is
Yeah.
really paying enough attention to. Some of the players, when they're brought in, they're 18, 19, 20, maybe they spend a season or two in the league, and then suddenly it's like they are the brand new shiny object in the window, the transfer window, that is. And unfortunately, it seems there's a limitation right now. And on the other hand, Chelsea seem to be buying up a ton of midfielders, young midfielders, for a future date when they will come good. Are we looking at given your concern for a lack of midfielders, are we looking at a future where Chelsea and a few clubs control the fate of a ton of quality, talented midfielders?
Of course. I even forgot to mention Chelsea in the array of clubs currently looking for subsidy when it comes to midfielders. I mean, there were reports that when they were going on tour, they only went with six midfielders. And trust me, that six midfielders sounds like bikini, right? Because the six midfielders, we really don't have four of those in the starting 11. Probably only Enzo Fernandez or Kane Chukwuemeka, who's an attacking midfielder. Every other person is a fringe player or an academy player hopeful to get ready to the team. So Chelsea is also one of them. And I think what we need to understand is Todd Boehly has established that his plan alongside the Clearly Capital, alongside the consortium in charge of Chelsea, and also the backroom staffs they brought in December 2022, that they want to invest in youngsters for the future. We watched some games in the preseason. Chelsea against Brighton. We've seen Kesede, Cheshire. We've seen Jackson link up well. We've seen Lewis Hall coming from the academy on the left hand side. We've seen Malo Gusto on the right, who is supposedly going to compete with Rich James. We are seeing Chaloba, though he hasn't really set his foot in the starting 11. But Chaloba comes to mind when you mention defenders in Chelsea, right? Wesley Fofana is out of the season. A huge gap in Chelsea. They will have to look back at this guy that featured in the under 20 currently there. So they have an array of youngsters that they want to invest in. So if you are going to follow that trend, we can start looking at okay, Pesedo comes in, shocks the absorber in deep line playmakers position. What happens in the attacking midfield? They've lost Messi Mount. They've lost Kovacic. How are they going to fill that up? So all these questions, I think, in the next couple of days will be answered by the backroom stars of Chelsea.
United, whom are currently in the market for a top rated striker. My question earlier was for a long time now, 2, 3, 4 seasons, going all the way back till, I suppose, the moment Alex Ferguson left the club. It seems like there's a lot of plans, there's a clarity about what players need to be brought in, what players need to be sold. But Manchester United have, since the days of, since the post era of Alex Ferguson, they seem to have been historically slow in doing their business during the window. Currently, only one player has left Manchester United, and only two players have joined, and none of them are priority as far as the lead up to the summer window is concerned. So Manchester United just going through the motions as they have done in previous summer transfer windows, not getting the initial options that they want to get, especially considering they don't seem to have the financial power to go after whoever they want anymore.
I don't really think it's totally down to financial power. I think it's down to administrative tussle. So let's not forget that Manchester United is in show glass right now. The Yoruba will say, so Manchester United now, they are on auction. They're in the market. People are bidding to buy them. Jim Ratcliffe is there. The Qatari are there. A lot of people are submitting bids, and it is still in court. There's a firm that has been established to look after this bid. So the way it's looking now for Manchester United internally, the focus is not even on players to bring in. The focus is not even on the backroom staff. The focus is not even on the coach. The focus now is who will own Manchester United going into 2023-2024. And when you have owners thinking about their books, thinking about auditions, thinking about history, thinking about how to retain their, how will I put it now, how to retain their portfolio, those are not the people that you will rely on to buy players. So again, I feel generally Manchester United are in the conundrum, and the conundrum suggests that they have to solve ownership problem first, after which they can start talking about bringing in new players.
Obviously, there's a limit to how much they can spend, Gbebga, and it seems to be holding up their deal in terms of trying to finalize the Højlund deal from Atalanta. Is there a top-rated striker that Manchester United can actually afford right now? Because they've been linked to Goncalo Ramos from Benfica. They've been linked to Kolo Muani. They've been linked to even Harry Kane. None of these players would be bought for anything less than 80 million pounds. Even Højlund, Atalanta are demanding 80 million pounds, whereas Manchester United see his valuation and the amount they're willing to go up to as only 60 million pounds. Is there a top-rated striker that Manchester United can afford to buy right now, or will they just have to settle for a B-rated striker?
Sell Maguire, add the money to what you have in your purse, and go for Haaland. Go for Kane. I mean, if you submit 90 plus million with add-ons for Kane, you will get his services. At the moment, Tottenham Hotspur will gain financially from the sale of Harry Kane, even regarding the project Ange Postecoglou wants to do for the Spurs team. It will be better for Spurs to partner with Kane than for them to keep him. So if they are in that conundrum to partner with Kane, Manchester United are also in that position to get his services. Sell Maguire, sell one or two players, accept your loss on Anthony. I know Ten Hag might not want to lose Anthony, but Manchester United fans are not happy with the guy. Sell him, get your money back. You have enough players that can fit into that, right? Although, yes, we hear Elanga has left, I think on loan or something. Nobody knows the future of Mason Greenwood, if he will ever play for Manchester United again. But they brought in Mason Mount, they have Fernandes, right? They have Rashford, they have Garnacho going into this season, right? They have to milk what they have to get what they want. But start with the players you need to offload.
If they
Chelsea, offload these players and have.
If they can't get a striker, if they do get, or if they decide to push the envelope and add that extra 20 million pounds for a Højlund or a Harry Kane, if they do get a striker that Erik Ten Hag feels completes his jigsaw, can Manchester United challenge for the league next season?
Why not? Why not? Do you know how many goals Rashford scored last season? Rashford scored 30 goals. And where did the 30 goals help Manchester United reach? Top 3. They won the Carling Cup. They got to the final of the FA Cup. That's success. In fact, people would rate Manchester United season above that of Arsenal, right? Yes, they messed up. Both messed up in Europe. Manchester United lost, I think, in the quarterfinals against Sevilla or so. But in the league, with what Ten Hag did in a supposedly disjointed team, a team that was still trying to find their footing defensively, still ended up producing the most clean sheets in the season. That is something we need to study. David De Gea is known with a lot of errors, made a lot of silly mistakes, still was the best goalkeeper. Varane, Martinez, who had good spells in the season, fell to injury, right? They had to bring in, they had to even use Luke Shaw sometimes as a center defense. Yet, they kept the most clean sheet. What was Ten Hag doing? Up front, if Rashford doesn't score, nobody else scores. Anthony was just making the numbers. Garnacho comes, yes, does like Chicharito once in a while, but that's it. But they still finished top 3. And they still got to all these things they got to. So I feel adding a good striker like Harry Kane or Højlund who gives them double figures alongside other players in the team that can create and also score for themselves, why won't Manchester United give it a run? They can.
Well, they are linked to Sofian Amrabat from Fiorentina, but they failed currently, as of yet, to get rid of any of their players that they feel they can let go. Scott McTominay is has been conspicuously missing from most match day first 11s for the last few months just before the season ended. And it's said that he is one of the players that Eric Ten Hag is willing to let go. Roma have shown an interest in him, but are you saying that the administrative holdup right now at Manchester United is also affecting their ability to move on players as well as buy them?
Absolutely. We also have a blueprint in the blue side of London. Chelsea were having ownership issues. They were having sanction issues. Even the coach, Thomas Tuchel at the time, confessed in the press conference that he wasn't sure he was going to start the season with the club. He wasn't sure of his future. And some players also had that doubt, right? So we saw how Chelsea seasons went. So we don't have to replay old wounds for fans that are watching the show. If they want to have a blueprint to look at, that's it. If you go into the new season still having ownership issues hanging over your head, it's definitely going to affect the team, right? There are a lot. Let's not forget. I think Manchester United suffered a sanction at the tail of the season, about a 250 million fine for something. Now, guess what? Manchester City are also in court, right? Filing petitions here and there, financial fair play here and there. A lot of things can happen, and these things tend to distract the players on the field. So they need to sort out administrative issues, sort out ownership issues before the season starts.
All right, let's move on to Chelsea, the most active club in the whole of the European transfer window, and they've sold so many players. In fact, they've sold a full 11 of players, and they still have a couple more that they're trying to get rid of, namely Ziyech as the number one player they're trying to get rid of. Others seem to be more of potential loans out to perhaps Strasbourg, the Chelsea owners' new venture in France, Ligue 1, and some of their transfer activities right now are even geared towards bringing in a couple players with the express intention to send them to Strasbourg, and some that are currently at the club are being touted for other loans to other clubs. Will Chelsea secure a deal for Caicedo though? He has been their number one transfer target this window, and the saga has gone on since basically the beginning of the window. The sale of Declan Rice for £105 million has raised the original rumored price of 80 million now to 100 million for Caicedo. Chelsea are not willing to spend more than 80 million pounds, and I think at the end of the day, if Chelsea do agree a deal, it will either be Brighton coming down to about 85 million pounds or Chelsea being willing to go as high as 90 or 95 million pounds. Will Chelsea secure a deal for Caicedo?
I think they should. People would say Chelsea's priority right now is the striking position, but I look at that Chelsea squad and I'm saying, except Chelsea want to let go of Amando Broha or possibly tell him to go on another season-long loan, settle the issue with Romelu Lukaku, who is still on their book, find a permanent position for Christopher Okonkwo, who they don't want to accept as a number 9 but can still give them goals, and give the keys to the kingdom to Nicholas Jackson, who just joined them, who has given 3 assists and a goal in preseason only. They have to solve all these issues, and all these people I'm mentioning are strikers, right? So if you have these players and you have the opportunity to keep them, I would say the striking position is no longer your priority.
Yeah.
The midfield position is. And if you are going into next season and you have only Enzo Fernandez as your stand-alone holding midfielder. And the likes of Kani Chukwuemeka, who else? I even struggle to remember. That's a problem. So
They have
bringing in
Andre
Caicedo,
Santos.
and yeah, that's the thing. Before fans will mention Santos, you wouldn't mention second 11, even on the bench when English Premier League season starts, right? So again, they have to solve that issue so that when we know that Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Loftus-Cheek has even gone, he has joined Pulisic in AC Milan. They are left with Mudryk, who sometimes can play as an attacking midfielder or a winger. Then they can begin to start their season on a lofty height. But that's all down to Togbeli and the backroom staff.
So Chelsea can't afford to not buy Caicedo or any defensive midfielder at all. That is a priority they cannot avoid feeling.
Absolutely. After the news about Frank Kessie came out when he confirmed for Barcelona, it's one of those DM I respect in world football. I wonder why nobody is going for Joshua Kimmich in Bayern Munich. That guy is something else. There's this guy at Inter Milan as well, Marcelo Brozovic. Nobody's mentioning his name. These are people who, under a good coach like Mauricio Pochettino, they can bring out the best in them and give Chelsea what they need the 2023-2024 season. It's all down to decision making. Chelsea need to be proactive. Again, it's not up to me.
Well, what do you make of the Chelsea transfer strategy so far? They've cleared a huge chunk of their previous playing squad. The fact is, almost no player from the season that they beat Manchester City in the Champions League final is left in this squad. As Piliqueta is gone, none of the benefit of his experience left in the squad. There's no Mason Mount. There's no Kai Havertz. It seems that the owners came in with a clear mandate, clear the old deck, raise some money, which they've done a significant amount of, raise enough money to go into the second summer window and buy, I should say, put their own stamp on the squad. What do you make of the sharpness of them getting rid of so many players and the decision now to go for younger and younger talent, less of them being experienced at the very top level, and doing it in such a manner whereby they are talking to clubs about purchasing their players without making bid after bid after bid?
So I would say this clearing didn't just start now. People have fun a lot about the 600 million Chelsea spent last season. They bought here and there. They bought a whole squad. But they forget that Chelsea also lost a whole squad last season summer. They lost 4 defenders, one a French player. They lost Rudiger to Real Madrid. They lost Christensen to Barcelona. They lost Marcos Alonso to Barcelona. And they lost Malang Sarr to loan. I don't know where that guy is right now, but I hear that he has been released. That's just the defensive aspect alone. There is a certain Callum Hudson-Odoi who is still on the Chelsea books, who was sent out. They lost this guy, Timo Werner, the German sprinter, back to RB Leipzig. So they still lost almost a whole squad before they started spending. And that is kind of what they are doing again this season. Trying to fish out Kante, Kovacic, Mount, even the goalkeeper, Mendy is gone, Koulibaly is gone. Now they are down to Badiashile. But again, what is the strategy? Are you actually answering the question which was unanswered last season? Chelsea had more points than goals scored in their season. That is pathetic. Chelsea has not had that kind of statistics holistically in the English Premier League since 1996. So all those bad records is not something you see of a top team that just won the Champions League 2 seasons ago, right? So it's down to the strategy. Are they answering the question?
Yeah. So you're talking about goal scoring, having credible, capable strikers available to them. If you've watched the recent preseason matches they've played, albeit those are friendlies, but you start to see some ability from Nkunku, from Jackson. These players seem to be capable of finding the back of the net. So the priority last season, over the course of last season, while pundits were talking about Chelsea's inability to score, seems to have now shifted from an inability to score to a solidity in midfield, which is where Caicedo comes in. But even Caicedo is only 21 years old. This current strategy of buying youngsters, can it work for Chelsea when it failed so spectacularly for Arsenal for years under Arsene Wenger, where the popular phrase came about, you cannot win anything with kids? Can Chelsea defy that history that Arsenal set?
I disagree with the notion about age, because we've seen age work several times. The Arsenal team that gave Man City a run for their money last season were arguably the youngest team in the entire league, and they were the best of the rest, aside from Manchester City, right? So where were the old boys like Liverpool? Where were the old boys like Chelsea? Where were the old boys like Manchester United? All these teams were found wanting at some point in the league, except the latter stages. Arsenal were impeccable for 97% of the campaign, and they were literally the youngest. We go back to 2018, 2019, when Lampard took over Chelsea. Lampard was literally a schoolboy when it comes to coaching, but he brought in Tammy Abraham, brought in Ben Chilwell, brought in Rhys James and Mason Mount into the team. And those four boys, exactly, and those four boys, or 4.5 now, went on to ensure that Chelsea made it to top 4. They qualified for the Champions League the following season. In fact, they were the bedrock that created that avenue for Chelsea to go on and win the Champions League in 2020-2021. People don't give them credit for that. So it was down to their age. They were young. So I don't buy in that.
However, but experience cannot be made up for with just energetic youthfulness. The fact is, the Arsenal of last season had some old heads in the squad, or at the very least, some squad members who had been in the squad for up to 2 years. You had Gabriel Malans, you had Gabriel Jesus, who has a history of winning the top prizes in the league with Manchester City. Also Zinchenko, which if you take note of, the manager, Mikel Arteta, didn't just go out and buy players that could fit the kind of football he wanted to play. He went out and bought players with experience to win, to elevate the nature and the game of the rest of the squad. This Chelsea squad now is looking at Thiago Silva as the oldest player in the entire squad. It's looking at Conor Gallagher as the most experienced and perhaps even the oldest player in the midfield. You have the rest of the squad, and the only other player who's is old enough to be considered experienced is Nkunku, and Nkunku hasn't won anything yet. So again, a squad of youth, and none of the players that Chelsea have in mind to bring in, the players like Kudus that they're being linked with from Ajax, players like Ryan Cherki from Olympique Marseille, I believe, and even Olise from Crystal Palace. All of these players are either 20, 21, or even younger, as young as 18, 19. So in the end, we're looking at a squad that on average, the average age right now is 22. 29 players in preseason right now in the USA, and there are talented squad players from the academy looking at pathways into the first team, and they don't see any, because none of the players ahead of them, most of the players ahead of them are within the 21 to 23 age range, and they are not going to be gone from the squad anytime soon. They are not going to be retiring anytime soon. They haven't spent enough time in the squad for the manager to decide, you know what, it's time to refresh. Let's move a couple of these players out and let's promote a few youngsters, either the ones that are currently being bought or the players that are coming from the academy. Again, my question about Chelsea's strategy, is this likely to backfire on them, either because they cannot win anything with a squad of youngsters, or because the youngsters available to them, there will be too many youngsters to fit into a 25 or 30 man squad?
I think, again, the word youngster or the age bracket we are putting them in is like a canopy hovering over what actually exists behind that age. We are reducing experience to old age or coming of a certain age. I mean, Mbappe won the World Cup at the age of 18. He was experienced at the age of 20. At the age of 21, 22, he has already won 4 league titles plus the World Cup. At the age of 24, he has been to 2 World Cup finals. What other experience do you want? He is still a youngster, right? Look at the guy who just went to Liverpool, Dominic Szoboszlai. He's the captain of the Hungarian team. He's just 22 years old. Look at the guy that Real Madrid.
But I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about as a unit.
I know.
A lot of these players are thriving because they're surrounded by other experienced players who can handle their own positional responsibilities. Mbappe can handle his because he's just that talented. But if the person in midfield is a 19-year-old defensive midfielder who's prone to mistakes because he's still young, and the other midfielders around him can't correct him because they are equally young, I doubt Mbappe would have achieved the level of success that he has thus far.
Let's not forget Raheem Sterling is still in this squad. Raheem Sterling is a serial winner.
Okay.
Came from Manchester City and he's still in this squad.
I will come back to Raheem Sterling, but go on.
In a Chelsea turmoil. Yeah, even in a Chelsea turmoil, he was still one of the best players last season for Chelsea, right? Raheem Sterling is there, and Enzo Fernandez, he may be young, but he's a World Cup winner. He has that winning mentality. We saw how formidable he could be in the middle of the park. Going back, yes, they still have Thiago Silva. Again, they have a Kepa Arrizabalaga, who, before he came to Chelsea, was also a very good goalkeeper in the Spanish football. So, plus Spanish football, plus English Premier League football, he's been there, he's been in the Champions League, he's been to the FIFA Club World Cup. They have experience even behind the numbers, talking about age. So, again, I'm not saying they will not go into the window and still bring in experience. If Caicedo comes in, that's much more experience and much more solidity into the team, right? So, I feel like while we are mentioning age, let's not use it to overshadow the sprinkle of experiences in the Chelsea squad.
All right.
Because it exists, actually.
All right. Chelsea are currently linked to a number of players. Right now, they're linked with Kudus from Ajax, Ryan Cherky, I've mentioned before. And that's just in the attacking midfield positions. Rumor has it that they've already made a bid for Olise from Crystal Palace. That is 3 left-footed wingers who one of them at least can play as a striker. So I suppose my question is, are they planning to get every single player that they're being linked with, or are they just negotiating with multiple options on their list to pick the most affordable come time to bid?
I think since the exodus of Marina Granovskaya, since the exodus of Peter Cech, even the most celebrated in Maleno, who now just secured another job somewhere else, people still don't trust the current backroom staff, right? They're still looking forward to what they can do. And it's looking like Red Bull Pro Max coming to Chelsea, because most of them were just picked here and there from the same conglomerate. People are looking forward to their signing. I mean, the likes of Marina gained prominence because of the negotiations she used in bringing in players that became impactful for Chelsea. So, if, for instance, going into next season, Mudryk, Noni Madueke, Jackson, they combine and give Chelsea a very good performance up front, people will begin to praise the backroom staff that brought them in. The point is, Results terminate insult. So you have to achieve something first to complement your efforts. Because no matter how much you put into it, people don't recognize it if there is no output. Right? So for Chelsea right now, what would honor the effort by the backroom staff is if these players that are coming in, I mean, Christopher Nkunku could jolly well go into next season and be the highest goal scorer. This guy has scored double figures repeatedly at his former club. So what is to say in a Chelsea side that wouldn't have any European duty, all their games will be in England, they will be fresh most of the time. Who is to say he wouldn't score more goals? And now people start to remember, oh, it was under Togbeli and Nkunku came to Chelsea. It was under this person in the backroom staff that
All
this
right.
guy came to Chelsea. So it's down to what they do next season.
All right, let's move on to Harry Kane. His saga has been going on now, and it seems that Bayern Munich might have broken the camel's back. Joe Lewis, the owner of Tottenham Hotspur, has informed, in fact, ordered Daniel Levy to sell Harry Kane or get him to sign a new contract. Levy, come the next week or two, might decide to sanction Harry Kane's sale if Harry Kane is still unconvinced of the potential of signing a new contract this summer. Will Tottenham be forced to sell Harry Kane, or will they, do you think, risk the player staying till next season and hoping that over the course of the season they can convince him to sign a new contract?
So I'm putting myself in the shoes of Harry Kane and I'm thinking, why have I not facilitated this deal to Bayern Munich? Right? Okay, so we go back to 2021, 2022 at the start when it was reported that Harry Kane missed some, was it 2021 or 2020, 2021? Can't really place it right now. He missed some training because he was trying to push a deal to Manchester City. At the same time, Manchester City were trying to push a deal for Cristiano Ronaldo coming from the Italian Serie A. And that bags goes. Eventually, the 100 million went to a wild card in Jack Grealish from nowhere. And both other players found their respective destination. Cristiano Ronaldo went to Manchester United and Harry Kane remained in Tottenham Hotspur. Now I'm saying to myself, here is a Bayern Munich who has got 3 separate deals for your services. You are going to go to Bayern Munich where they don't have a striker. They suffered not having a striker when Lewandowski left. Mane went there, he still couldn't pull his weight. So this is a Harry Kane that can easily walk into a Bayern Munich team with the likes of Serge Gnabry, with Leroy Sané, Alphonso Davies running from the left, and all these tricky players. He is going to score goals for fun. So why is he not? I'm not talking about the team. Right? I'm not talking about Levy. I'm not talking about Tottenham Hotspur. I'm not talking about the sporting director or the CEO. Harry Kane himself. Why is he not pushing for this deal? He doesn't have to visibly come out and be rude to the club, but say something like make waves that you want to move. Look at Mbappe. Mbappe understands the power, the soft power he wields at PSG. And he's using it against them. Now,
all right.
Mbappe is trending. Even
well, if
football, now know that Mbappe is being attracted to the
if Harry Kane, if Tottenham Hotspur decide that Harry Kane has to leave because they can't get him to sign a new contract, will they have to take a cut price, like say 70, 80 million pounds for him, knowing that the Bayern Munich will decide that, you know what, we know the player wants to come. You can't afford to keep him any longer than this summer window. We're going to only offer 80 million pounds and we're not going to go higher than that. Bayern Munich do not have a history of buying any player for 100 million pounds, which is the minimum that Tottenham have stated they would even consider for Harry Kane. So, and if that were to happen, if it became clear they have to sell him and they have to accept a bid of 70 or 80 million pounds because they can't afford to keep him any longer, would they also be willing to accept an offer from an English side, say a Manchester United? Because Tottenham might think of themselves as not wanting to sell to a rival English team, but in actual fact, they don't have any real rivals in the league. Arsenal are no longer a rival of theirs. Chelsea are not a rival. Manchester United, Manchester City, certainly not Liverpool. All of these teams are gunning for the league. And Tottenham have all of these teams ahead of them in terms of trying to compete for top 4 spaces. none of them are direct competition. So might they be forced to actually sell him to an English side?
So I think one handicap to Harry Kane's situation is the fact that he has just 1 year to the end of his contract. So that actually puts Tottenham seemingly on the losing side when it comes to negotiations, because you have a player who is plus 30 and who has just 1 year left in his contract. You cannot be putting 90 million or 100 million on it. Yes, we know his worth. We know what he can produce. But again, let's be reasonable. It's still football business. So if probably Bayern or Man U can come down to a compromise of 85 plus add-ons and everything that is up to 90 and whatever, either of these things can actually pay this. It's left for Tottenham Hotspur to show the interest to want to negotiate. I may not have attended a lot of negotiations back home before or behind the scenes, but I know how negotiations work. It's about one person and the other person coming to a compromise.
All right.
Remember when a colleague of ours, Aluko, went to leak the information about somebody in Arsenal calling somebody in Manchester City, eventually get somebody from West Ham. And it eventually played out like that. So all these things happen, but hopefully I want Harry Kane to show some ambition.
All right, let's move on now. The biggest saga of the transfer window right now, and a story related to this player is always big. Would Mbappe risk sitting on the bench for a season when the Euros are just next year?
One possibility I know, or let's just say two possibilities that I know, is Mbappe is not going to play for PSG next season. So be it Saudi Pro League who eventually comes to the rescue, or Real Madrid who eventually come back to their senses and say, okay, let's just forget the fact of getting this guy on a free and just pay for his services now. Or another club just comes into the picture. He has been linked to Chelsea, surprisingly. But one possibility I see.
What do you mean surprisingly? Chelsea no be club. Come on for you.
No be club where player we won't win Ballon d'Or.
I bet come on for you.
That's another thing.
Will Real Madrid make a bid for him? And if not, might Mbappe be willing to end up in another club? Because Real Madrid did not intend to spend up to £200 million this summer window. They've spent a significant amount of money on bringing in Bellingham. If they were to go for Mbappe, that's another 120, maybe 150, when they know they could just wait till next season. But if Mbappe's life in PSG, in Paris, becomes completely untenable, might he just decide, you know what, I'll go to another club like a Chelsea for a season or two and then eventually end up in Madrid anyway?
All right, let me paint the picture for us. And I'm putting myself in Mbappe's shoes to paint this picture, right? Now, here is me, Mbappe, leaving PSG, accepting. Wait, Cristiano Ronaldo plays for Al Nassr, right? So, I'm accepting this deal from Al Nassr, where Cristiano Ronaldo plays for. And I am going to be paid how much?
£600 million in a single season with a release clause to leave to Madrid next season. The season after this coming.
And while doing that, there is a possibility to also win the Saudi Pro League, which I would have never had the opportunity to in my entire existence. So while making an insane amount of money for 1 year, I have the opportunity to play with Cristiano Ronaldo for 1 year. I also have the opportunity to win a league in the Middle East. Note, I have an opportunity to become an ambassador for Saudi Arabia towards their fight for hosting World Cup in 2030, which Cristiano Ronaldo is already a part of. After doing all this and becoming an insane billionaire, I also have the opportunity to come back to Real Madrid, which is my home, and still play for them for 2024-2025. I mean, why wouldn't I take this deal? But that's the picture I want to paint.
But now, if Mbappe does decide he is unbothered by any of the noise around him and he chooses to stay in PSG, would it be right for him to stay at the club and then leave on a free next summer? Because we've talked about clubs being unfair to players when they want to leave. Now we're looking at a club who wants a player to leave, but the player wants to stay, and would end up costing them about 200 million pounds come the summer of next season. What is it about this? Would Mbappe really be doing something wrong, or would he just be, living his life and doing what's best for him, and that's okay?
So first of all, I don't see a player in the caliber of Kylian Mbappe choosing to be inactive for a whole season. And this is not even about PSG dropping him to the bench. It's about Mbappe himself keeping fresh. This is a guy that is not even in the running for the Ballon d'Or this year, despite what he did at the World Cup in 2022. So he's here thinking, in spite of all I have done since 2018, being one of, if not the best player at the World Cup in 2022, carrying my team to the final, extending it to the penalty shootout, winning the PSG Ligue 1 again, being the highest goal scorer for how many seasons right now, I am still not in the running for the Ballon d'Or. And I am 24 years old. On the 20th of December, I'll be 25 years old. I want to remain relevant in world football in the prime of my years. So if I'm thinking of all these things, it would be insane to go sit on the bench for one season. I mean, it took one season from Hazard to go from this to this. Hazard was on top of the world in 2019 after winning the Europa League with Chelsea.
Yeah.
Left on a high and went to Real Madrid and became worse than top 100, right? So one season is enough for Mbappe to lose all his relevance. And one season is also enough for him to maintain his trajectory.
All right. Going by your words, one season is enough for old friends to become enemies. Just right there, you saw a picture of the PSG president, all smiles with Mbappe having resolved to sign a new contract with PSG. But now, one final question and we'll wrap up, and let's keep it brief. Could the Lukaku situation be resolved by the Mbappe situation for Chelsea? Lukaku is currently trying to leave Chelsea. Chelsea wants to sell him, but his exit has stalled. Juventus want him. Inter Milan have turned their backs on him. He has rejected a deal from Saudi Arabia. He wants to go to Juventus. But Juventus can only buy him if they manage to sell Vlahovic. If Mbappe is able to be moved off the PSG wage bill, PSG have shown an interest in Vlahovic in the past. If they go for Vlahovic, Juventus suddenly has the money to buy Lukaku. Is that the way this is probably going to go during this window?
Well, I think for Lukaku, he's burnt a lot of bridges. I mean, even with recent updates that before, in fact, that was what was so funny to me. I found out that before the Champions League final, Lukaku and his agents were already approaching Juventus for a deal to go. And I'm here thinking, how is that same? You are in a club where the person ahead of you is Edin Dzeko, who is over 30 and is on the brink to leave, which means you are the heir apparent, you're stepping. And you are going to a Juventus side that still has Vlahovic, who is 22 years old and is better than you, that will start ahead of you. So I want to trust the reports, but I don't want to trust the rationale. It's down to Lukaku anyway. He's burnt a lot of bridges. I don't see him going back to Chelsea. I don't see him going back to Inter Milan. He's like the prodigal son whose father is unforgiving. So it's left for him to decide his future.
Well, thank you so much, Gboyega. As regards Lukaku, I probably believe he will end up in Saudi Arabia come the end of the summer window. That beans that he doesn't want to eat, he'll end up eating it. Thanks so much.
Lukaku is a Muslim, right? So it will be well fitting for him.
Thanks so much, Gbebga, for joining us on the show. That has been the transfer market roundup for this week. My name is Mikhail Tinubu. As always, I'd like to remind you, life is never boring with some sports. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the show. Remember, we love you. Thanks. Have a good evening.